So where was I? I can remember sharing a lot of stories and memories. I can remember gratitude, lots and lots of gratitude. Where did I leave off? Where did I leave off? I remember. So when you heard me say those words, I hope you know that I did not take them lightly. When you heard me offer that phrase to you, I want you to know that it was not a passing thought. It was not given to you as some sort of famous last words. Those words I gave to you were an affirmation. It's an affirmation, which I know in this world, we believe it to be a positive statement of truth. A positive statement of truth. It is something we believe. It is something we embrace. It is something that once we say it, then we need to go do whatever is ours to do in order to make it manifest in our lives. And so in case you have forgotten, I will say it again. In case you have forgotten, or perhaps you were not here, I will offer it one more time as a gentle and yet very powerful reminder. The words that I offered to you were, until we meet again. And as I stand here on this platform this morning and I look out at all of you, I want to say thank you for believing it. I want to thank you for embracing it. I want to thank you for doing whatever you have done over these last 14 months in order to make it manifest in our lives this morning, because, my friends, it is so good to be back. It is so good to be back. It really is. It is just so good to be back. From the moment I received the phone call from Deb Mattine inviting me to come back and experience a Sunday morning with you again, I mean, I've just been beside myself. I have been so very excited. You know, I just couldn't wait to get back here and to see all of you again. And now that I'm up here on this platform and I'm looking out and I see all of you, I can see, you know, that many of you are in the same seats you were in when I left. You laugh. There's some of you that are not making eye contact with me right now. No. Now, what I see when I stand up here, I can see that these lights are still protecting the identity of everyone up there in the balcony. You know, you have your own UCOP witness protection balcony up there, but you know, I know you're up there. I know you're up there. What I see are the same beautiful expressions of God that I saw every time I had the privilege of standing up here over the years. And now I know that you can see only me up here. At least I hope that's all you see up here. But I may be the only one that you see up here. But I want you to know that I hope that there is so much more that you can feel. Because I have brought with me just tons and tons and tons of hellos, hugs, love, prayers, best wishes, and a whole lot of gratitude from everyone at Unity of Traverse City, Michigan. Everyone there has been tracking with us this morning. In fact, the gentleman who is facilitating the service there and offering the lesson for them in order that I could be here with you today, he told me earlier this week that when he stood on that platform and he turned around to offer the opening prayer, that it would be one that would include and enfold each and every one of us here at Unity Church of Overland Park. Many of them have said that later today or earlier into the week, whenever it is posted, they will be watching or listening online to this service. And so if you would indulge me, I would just like to take the opportunity to give a shout out to everybody at Unity of Traverse City. Know that you are right here in my heart, and more importantly, you are right here with all of us in spirit as well. Now, along with all of the excitement, all of that excitement, there's also been a little apprehension. A little bit of apprehension, because as soon as we did confirm the date that would work for everybody for me to be here with you, I knew that I would soon be getting another communication from this ministry. A communication that I received many, many times when I was here, a communication that I knew was absolutely inevitable, and it did come. A month ago to the day today, I received an email from Brandon Nagel. Very short email, very much to the point, with just one question. Eileen, do you have your lesson title yet? Some things don't change. And you know, for as long as I was a congregant, employee, minister, member of this community, as much as I knew that email was going to come, as much as I expected it when it arrived, I didn't have a lesson title. I didn't have one, and so I even asked. I said, okay, is there anything that the ministry would like for me to talk about today? Are you going to be in the middle of a series, or is there a theme or an upcoming event, anything that I might be able to support at least a little bit in the message that I would share with you today? So Brandon sent me another email. And he said, well, Eileen, we have claimed, 2014 at UCOP as being the year of the I am. The year of the I am, which I congratulate you for doing that, because those are two very powerful words. And he said, and I just realized that you're going to be here on the first Sunday of a new month, and so we're going to have a new word, a new theme, and so forth. And he said, and so the underlying theme for May is going to be I am curious. So I'm sitting up in my office in Traverse City amidst the about 85 feet of snow that we got this year, and I'm reading this email, and I'm saying, well, I'm pretty darn curious at the moment about what I'm going to talk about when I get there, But if you followed any of the promotions leading up to today, or perhaps just looked in your bulletin when you arrived, you saw that I did land on a lesson title, and it is entitled Trading History for Mystery. Trading History for Mystery. And I landed on that title through a book that we're using in Traverse City as our foundational support for 2014. It's a book by Tama Keebs, who is no stranger to this ministry. She's been here speaking to you as well and offering her workshops. I just saw in the bulletin just now before I came up here that she's coming to Unity Village at the end of this week. And her book, her most recent book, is entitled Inspired and Unstoppable. And that's our theme there. And so I was reading her book, Inspired and Unstoppable, and so some of what I will share with you has been gleaned from that. Now, she uses the phrase trade history for mystery when she writes about how there are times in our lives when we just give our past experiences, we let them all play too big of a role in defining our present-day experiences, which of course become our history. She says that when we do that, we run the risk of missing out on many wonderful opportunities in our lives. So when I saw that this lesson was going to really start honing in on just a couple of very specific words, I do what I always do when that happens, and that is I wanted to look them up. I wanted to at least read through all of their definitions, not just rely on ones that I knew or that I assumed to be correct. And as I did that, I found something that just struck me a little bit about the word history. When I saw its Greek meaning, it was defined in part as being a learning or knowing by inquiry. A learning or a knowing by inquiry, and all of that originated from a word that meant to inquire. And it just struck me that this word that we most commonly use today as a noun really originated from a word of action. And I imagine that struck me because, we're unity, and we're all about taking action in our lives. And then the word mystery, it had its plethora of definitions as well, but the one that really worked well for what Tama Keebs wanted to share in her writing, and the one that worked really well for what I wanted to impart today, was one that defined mystery as any truth that is unknowable except by divine revelation. Any truth that is unknowable except by divine revelation. And so with all of that in front of me, the question for me became, well, when is it time to make the trade? When is it time to begin the shift from history into mystery? Since we create the history in our lives as we live them, when is it that we might want to inquire of ourselves when it's time to let go of focusing only on past experiences and shift a little bit more into the mystery as we create our experiences of the here and now? Well, one reason that we might want to do that, why we might want to start asking ourselves some of those questions, is when we find ourselves basing our future only on the past. And in particular, when we're focusing on those areas of the past that have no opportunity to serve us in any way in growing or moving forward and upward in our lives. You know, how many of us at one time or another in our lives have said something like, I can't do that. I tried it once. I tried it 3 more times. I failed each and every time. Why should I try again? Or maybe there's something more along the lines of, nothing ever changes. It's always the same old thing. Not always. Not always. I mean, if you know me at all, you know that I could not come back here today. I could not come back here, not even for one Sunday, and not talk to you about Pittsburgh sports. But it's not the same old thing, because it's not about the Steelers. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about another professional team out of Pittsburgh, and it's their baseball team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, to be very honest with you, I do not follow baseball very closely at all. I haven't for years. But that changed a little bit last year. See, when I was growing up, through my teens and into my early 20s, the Pittsburgh Pirates baseball team, it was pretty awesome. I mean, it was an awesome team. They were winning their division several times. It seemed like year after year they were in the playoffs. They even won the World Series 2 times during that time frame. But in 1984, they entered into what would become a 20-year journey of not making the playoffs. And not just not making the playoffs, they became one of, if not the worst baseball team in all of Major League Baseball. The absolute worst team. 20 years of frustration and failure and futility. But then last year, that changed. Last year, the team, about midway through the season, and if you do follow baseball, it is a very long season. And about midway through, people started to notice that the Pirates were playing really well. They were playing really well. And then the season progressed a little bit more, and people started to really sit up and pay attention. They were playing really well. And then, as the season almost was at a close, it looked very favorable that they would either win their division or at least get into the playoffs as a wild card team. The energy was rising around the possibility that this horrible 20-year skid would finally come to an end. And I was watching TV one day. It was before a baseball game was coming on, and a reporter was interviewing one of the stars of the Pittsburgh Pirates. And this young man, actually, he went on to be named the most valuable player of the entire league last year. And the reporter was asking him about those glory days of the Pirates, when the team was on top of the league, they were on top of the city, just on top of the world. Well, I hope we all have that feeling at some point in our lives. And he was asking this player how it felt, what it was like to be on a team that had been so bad for so long, to now finally be in a place where they might finally begin to become like the teams of old, those glory teams of the 70s and 80s. Now, you got to understand that this young player, he wasn't a part of those teams of the glory years. He wasn't even born in the 70s. He didn't start playing Major League Baseball until 2009. And so his response to the reporter was pretty blunt, but it was not blunt in the sense of being negative or arrogant or rude in any way. It was like he was standing there and just making this proclamation. Because he told this reporter that he did not want, nor did his team want, to be like the players and teams of old. He said they were also so far beyond and so very tired of hearing about the 20-year losing streak. He spoke about who they were now and who they wanted to be, And he says it was theirs to go create, not copy. He said they had their own identity. And although they were all collectively very proud of and fully respectful of the history of the organization and those players of the glory years of old, they were going to go create their own history. You see, it's all about not limiting ourselves to what has been, even when what has been was pretty darn good. You know, it's about not limiting ourselves or defining ourselves by only what we or others are or once were. It's about realizing that when we take our focus and we shift it from looking at only our history and go step into the mystery, it's when we open ourselves up to experiencing those wonderful things that Tamma Keeves was referencing in her book. Deepak Chopra is another author who stated it another way, but very clearly as well. He created, I believe, and wrote about what's called the law of potentiality. And he says that we are, in our essential state, pure consciousness. Pure consciousness is pure potentiality. It is the field of all possibilities and infinite creativity. See, pure consciousness to me, I hear that, and I just go to a place where I invite God into my awareness. You know, God's never anywhere else. It's me, it's us that choose to become more aware of it. And so when we trade only known history for the unlimited possibilities of the mystery, that's when we find ourselves in that wonderful place where what was once unknown becomes divinely revealed. There's another time that we might want to consider shifting more out of history into the mystery, and those are the times when we lose heart. You know, those times in life where we find ourselves in situations or places or circumstances where we just want to give up. We just want to give in, we want to quit, we want to throw up our hands, throw in the towel. I've been there, I've felt that at different times in my life. I imagine that many, if not every single person in this room, at one time or another has been there as well. And two of the reasons that we can find ourselves in those places is because of the timing that we expect and the assumptions that we make. I mean, haven't we all had expectations in our lives about when something should or was supposed to have happened? And by what point in time we should have accomplished something, attained something, experienced something. And when that hasn't been the case, haven't we all made assumptions as to why not? And haven't we all been wrong about our assumptions just one time? Tamma Keeves shares a story in her book. It was about a time when she got a call from her publisher, and the publisher let her know that they wanted to relaunch her first book, not the one we're speaking from today. Her first book was This Time I Dance. And they called her and said, we want to give it a brand new cover. We want to put in a brand new foreword to it. We want to give you a renewed and larger, more energetic marketing and publicity push. She was thrilled. She said she saw that as a second chance to get her work, her passion out into the world because it had not been received as yet. And so she gets herself ready. She talks a little bit about, some nervousness, but again, she prepared. She dressed up the way she thought she should. She gets on the plane, goes up to New York, walks into the publisher's office, and it wasn't until she arrived at the offices that they told her that not only had all of those plans been shelved, not one thing was going to be done for that book. But now because of that, no major chain bookstore would even carry the book because it had not made enough sales in the initial period of its first launch. You talk about losing heart. She says that she assumed why all of that had happened the way it was and lost complete confidence in herself. But then she went on to write, of course, my assumptions were the problem. I thought I knew what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't know. I had vowed to work with an inspired essence. Those two words are capitalized, so you know she's referring to a higher power of some sort. But I had vowed to work with an inspired essence that had no fear, no limits, or lack of crazy power, magnetism, and bandwidth up its shimmering sleeve. How could I know what was going to happen? I still had a second chance, and a third, and a fourth, and a billionth. Yes, the circumstances changed. Then I'd allowed my attitude to change. I'd made up a drama about how nothing was working out now. I allowed that story to narrow, blur, and diminish my reality. The day I let go of that story was the day I stepped into my second chance. And I would say that based upon the fact that we're here this morning talking not about her first, but her second best-selling book, the fact that we're welcoming her to Unity Village in about 3 or 4 more days, I'd say that her decision to let go of her story was a pretty wise one. See, we all need to take the time to look at the stories we tell about our lives, the stories we believe about our lives. We have to ask ourselves how much of them, if any at all, have been based upon assumptions. We have to ask ourselves questions to see if those stories are only serving to limit us in some way. And then, as always, we have the choice. We have the choice. We can decide whether it's time to let go of the story, to release our grip on human timing, and instead step into that mystery of divine revelation and embrace the fact that, as a good friend of mine always tells me, Eileen, life can turn on a dime. Anything can happen at any time. It seems to me that the underlying theme of this idea of trading history for mystery is that we have a choice as we move through our lives to choose limitation or to choose divine revelation. Limitation or divine revelation. This morning, when I walked into the building, I just began feeling a rush of memories, just an absolute rush of memories. Memories of you, memories of volunteer teams, boards of directors that were in service when I was here, memories of the staff, some that are still here, others that over the years have moved on to various places and opportunities. And actually, I started thinking about the staff when I was still in the parking lot, because you see how y'all have your favorite seats in here? We had our favorite spots out there, so I saw the cars and I knew exactly who was here and who wasn't. But you see, all of us together, we created lots of history. We wrote lots and lots of stories together. And so much of it, so much of it was the good history. The good history that you want to remember. I want to remember those stories because they were never filled with limitations or based upon assumptions. I want to remember them because each and every one of them began with God. In my experience, this ministry has never embraced limitation. It has never extended any power to ideas of lack or impossibility. This ministry has always put God first and has never been afraid to step into the mystery. I'm standing here this morning and I want to tell you how glad I am that you have chosen to step into the mystery once again. How glad I am that you have opened yourselves to the divine guidance that is within you in order to create the content of your next story. You see, it's a story that, at least in part, is a story about who you're being called to be. It's a story, at least in part, of just being in that space of calling to you that one very special person that is going to come in and step into the role of your next lead minister. But more important than any of that, I think the story is about the role that each and every one of you is being invited to play. See, I have no doubt. I have absolutely no doubt that all of that and more is already and will continue to be divinely revealed in wondrous and awesome ways. Awesome ways. And I tell you that I know that at depth because I heard it said right here where I stand today. See, this past January, I was sitting in my home office in Traverse City, and I watched and I listened as your board president, Stacy Cross, and Reverend Bob stood right here, and they spoke to you that day. I listened to Stacy's comments, and what I heard was an invitation, this wonderful invitation for all of you to join with the leadership of this ministry and together go forward into, through, and beyond a circumstance that had presented itself to you. These are some of the words that I heard being spoken. It is best to take time to pray. We rest in the healing presence of Spirit. God is here and working for the highest good. It is a new path. We are fully engaged in our future, committed to being all we can be. We are an amazing community on a path to change us all and the world at depth. As I heard those words and more being offered that day, I knew at depth that they were not being offered lightly. I knew that they were not just passing thoughts. Because you see, those words, those phrases, they were affirmations. They were affirmations which I know in this room we know to be positive statements of truth. Positive statements of truth. They're statements we believe. They're statements we embrace. They're statements that once they're made, it's up to all of us to do whatever is ours to do to make them manifest in our lives. I listened to those words, and I believed them. I have embraced them. And if I can do nothing else, I will continue to affirm them in my prayers as they continue to make themselves manifest in your lives and in the life of this amazing ministry. That is my promise. That's my commitment to you today. I said it once, and I have felt so blessed to have been given the opportunity to say it for a second time. And down the road, I hope there will be a third, a fourth, a fifth, and a billionth time to do so. An affirmation from my heart to yours. Until we meet again, I thank you for an incredible welcome back, welcome home to me today. I love you so much. God bless you.